a deck of my own featuring Arceus Dialga Palkia, a very underrated Articuno with the Primal Power Plus, Victini Victory Star, Guzma Hala to search for all the bits and pieces, and of course one of the most important parts to this deck, the Double Dragon Energy. This is why it's so important to be an expanded. I'm going to be playing 3 games to show off this deck. So this was the first game, and I did win this game. My opponent did seem quite bricked though. So I lost my coin flip, which is always sad. It's always ideal to go second to get your GX off. And I also started with an Articuno-GX, which is obviously a last resort. So this is the kind of thing that you need Float Stone in this deck for, or Guzma, all those kinds of things just to get out of the active. So I play my Brooklet Hill and I get my Articuno, and having nothing else to attach to, I just attach to it and said turn. Now, as I said, he was quite bricked. He started off with the Rowlet and Executive tag team out front, and he just attached an energy, and I noticed that he had no bench, which is very unusual because in that deck you have many things that you want to evolve, but no, he was so unlucky that he didn't get it. So I Guzma Hala'd away a Guzma for future VS use, and a water energy so that I could Aqua Patch it back later. And I decided not to get a Brooklet Hill, and I attached my Float Stone, which was an actual mistake of me. Because we are playing in the expanded format, he could have field blowered or tool scrapped or something like that, but he was quite bricked, and I was actually praying that he wouldn't do that, because then I'd have to be lucky enough to draw back into it, or get an adventure bag and get it back like that. But he didn't. So it was my turn again, and I decided to just Cynthia. I was quite upset about leaving that Double Dragon Energy behind. But I got rid of Boss's Orders once again for future VS use, and got my Arceus Dialga Palkia. And I attached them with the last energy to Articuno, and decided to leave Articuno-GX out there for one more turn, because he was still kind of bricked, so I just wanted more time to get set up. Now, he did miss his Crushing Hammer, and I was like, oh gosh. I could have I didn't know that I was going to get the Double Dragon Energy, but I did. So I retreated back into Arceus Dialga Palkia, Brooklet Hill again, and Altered Creation. So this is when the fun really starts in this game. This was the best game that I had. Especially because the opponent was using tag teams, which allows you to see the full potential of this deck and the full prize card amount that you can get. So I decided to choice band onto the secondary Articuno, attach my energy and ultimate rage to push the Rowlet and Executive, because Articunos, they have a lot of trouble attacking, so that's why you need something like Arceus Dialga Palkia to not only attack but also give that amazing GX attack. So overall, it's essential in this deck, and while I only play 2, that's what I have, I do think that 2 is a good amount, because obviously 2 tag teams you're out of the game, but if you kill 2 tag teams, that's 6 prize cards. But I do like to have second ones set up, so I decided to retreat back into Articuno, and at this point I was feeling very uneasy. As you'll see, the secondary attack, the strongest attack for Articuno, is on a coin flip. So I was feeling very nervous. I was like, well, what if I don't get this coin flip? So I decided to quick ball away a Guzma Hala and get my Victini Victini Victory Star, because I was very nervous as to the outcome of this dice roll. So I decided to put that down and then go for Tri-Edge. Now, I was actually lucky. My first result had 2 hits, and that was just enough to kill it. So I did that, and it was dead. Now you'll start to see the brokenness of this plus power. So we're only a few turns in the game, and I've got one prize card. Now he's quite bricked here because he's got a Venusaur and Snivy, and their retreat cost and attack cost is nothing to sneeze at. They're a very risky Pokemon to have, although Shining Vine is a very cool ability. I don't play one in any of my decks personally. I think that they're one of the worst tag teams. Obviously, no tag team is bad, but they're just one of the worst. Of course, Arceus, Dialga, Palkia is up there. Yeah, so he Shining Vined out my Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, and I don't blame the guy. He wouldn't have known that I had a Float Stone in hand, which was quite lucky, but I was kind of conceptualizing in my head, oh, I'm just gonna Float Stone this back out. So then he was really thinking about it. He was like, he knew that he was bricked, but you never give up, never surrender, and that's something that I like to abide by as long as I know 100% that I am going to lose. So I put the Float Stone on it and retreated back into Articuno and decided to put a Water Energy on it just in case. So I got 2 heads again, and I didn't want to risk it, so I just went with that. So 160 damage was what I had. And of course, the attack cost is so hefty that he could do nothing. Maybe if he attached a double colorless energy, and I did see double colorless energy in his deck, but I think he would have done that by now if he had, or maybe even attach it to something else at this point. But no, he just attached a basic and went for Shining Vine again and put out this. So I was thinking, well, what's the point of going for a coin flip that I may well lose? So I decided to just get rid of my 2 Tapu Lele's, look for a double dragon, and get a guaranteed knockout with Ultimate Ray. So I attached the double dragon, went for Ultimate Ray, and won. And I decided to attach an energy to Articuno-GX. So that was the last prize card, and that's the first game. Overall, this was a very solid game, although I'm not sure of the outcome if my opponent had not such a bad hand for them, but not such a good luck for me. So that was the first game. Now on to the second game. Now this was obviously closer than the first game. Of course you can't get bricked that often. I actually do feel quite bad because he might have actually won if he had a good setup. A Rowlet Executor is very annoying, but I did win that game. So this game was against a deck that I haven't actually seen in a while, Zygarde. I have played Zygarde before. I've actually played it in real life. I do go to a real life hobby league, and I played against someone with a Zygarde deck. So it is a very cool deck. I just haven't seen it in a while. So anyway, I start with Tapu, which is obviously not ideal. He starts with Zygarde GX, and he decides to go for Ultra Ball, gets rid of my idea of fighting energy and an Ultra Ball, and he looks for a Rockruff. And I was thinking, oh well, I've actually played Bloodthirsty Eyes Zygarde and Zoroark in an actual physical standard tournament. So I know a lot about it, and when he got a Rockruff, that was the first thing that went through my mind. So I already knew all about that. But he'd only had 2 cards in his hand, and when people do that, it kind of makes me nervous because whatever they've got in those 2 cards in their hand, it can either make or break me. So he decides to use one of those 2 cards, which is a double colorless energy, which isn't ideal because he will be attacking next turn. So I decide to get my ADP, put my Muscle Band on there, get my Double Dragon, and go for the Sycamore. And I do draw into my Float Stone. I put my Victini Victory Star down, and I decide to go for a very wasteful computer search for the Articuno. But And I will admit that I was stupid and didn't see Brooklet Hill, but I did Brooklet Hill for a second one after I'd seen it. And I was like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. But at least I had two. And also, last card in hand was Sycamore, so that's obviously a plus. So we were both in very similar card hand sizes, both 2 cards. And he goes for the Brooklet Hill and looks for the Dialga Prism, which is obviously a very strong card in these types of decks. He goes for a Sycamore, just like me. He goes for a Max Elixir, and he actually he took quite a while, but he actually did get his fighting energy and put it onto the rare Zygarde-GX. He attaches another one to the rare Zygarde-GX, just getting them both set up, and he connected, I think it is, for actually quite a bit of damage, not too shabby. I pick up a Cynthia and just go for Sycamore. Now I do pick up my energy for my ultimate ray, and I wasn't too scared of this thing at this point. So I go for Adventure Bag, look for both a Choice Band and a Muscle Band, put Choice Band on Articuno and a Muscle Band on the other one, and went for an Ultimate Ray, which was just enough to kill it with Altered Creation. So, because I'd already Aqua Patched onto one of the Articunos, I just attached 2 to one and 1 to the other. And of course, that's 3 prize cards because of the GX. So I picked up a Water Energy, Quick Ball, and a Dedenne-GX, which is obviously very nice. You can swap out the Dedenne-GX if you do not have one. It took me quite a while to get my copy of Dedenne-GX, and I still don't have a lot of stuff on this account, obviously, but I was very proud of that. But you can swap it for like another Nest Ball. Currently I play 1 Nest Ball, or if you're lucky enough to have another Arceus Dialga Palkia or another Articuno, you should do that. I only played 2 Arceus Dialga Palkias and only 2 plus Articunos, which I am quite sad about. I only have 2 in my collection, but they do work out, and I'm not sure if that's a blessing or a curse, because it's not good to draw them too often. So he gets another Max Elixir with his Zygarde-GX, more than overpowered, and he has Rockruff out front, just as something to put out there. But he decides to attach a Float Stone and retreat it, and he goes for Verdict GX, which leaves me in very dangerous waters, living only on 30 in fact. So I decide to Guzma the Regirock, go into Tapu Lele, retreat from Tapu Lele, the Ultimate Ray for win, and of course it's 3 prize cards. So that was the second game.
Of a game that can have a very bad draw with this deck. If you have good luck, you can absolutely win on this deck, but if you've got bad luck, it's a very bad deck to be playing. So I started off with a mulligan, and that's obviously not good, and I also went first, which are some of the worst outcomes for this deck ever. So I had a mulligan, as you can see here, and he put out 2 Pokemon. And then I took my mulligan draw. Little did I know that I had to take 2 mulligans. And started with the Tapu Lele. So I was going first, had 2 mulligans, and started with the Tapu Lele. And I had no ADP or any ways of getting it in hand. So, I adventure bagged for a Float Stone to hopefully get this Tapu Lele out of the active sometime soon. Put a Choice Band into my hand because I might Sycamore it later. Put my Brooklet Hill down, looked for an Articuno, put my muscle band on the rear Articuno, and because I couldn't play any supporters, I said turn. Now, his turn was a very eventful turn. He decided to play Welder this turn, and he got 2 energies for his Welder. And then I was starting to understand that I would surely be losing this game. So then he Fiery Flinted, and he got all of his energy. And at this point, I knew I was kind of bricked. He had everything that he needed in order to kill a Tapu Lele, and probably an Arceus Dialga Palkia if he had one, and he was already set up on his first turn, whereas I still had a Tapu Lele and no energies on an ADP. So I had a very bad draw, and he seemed to have a rather good draw for his deck. So obviously things weren't aligning up for me, and this is why I did in fact lose the game. So he gets his energy, and he gets his energy, puts him in hand, shuffles his deck, and then he decides to he actually waited quite a while for this decision, because if you can play your cards right in this deck, then you can beat my deck, especially because there's a weakness involved. But he decided to Aqua Bike. He discarded a GX, a Rainbow GX it looked like, and he had his still Jirachi out front, which is a very strong card, especially because Escape Board was still in expanded format. So he goes for Adventure Bag for Beast Bringer, and of course the Escape Board to get that Jirachi out front. He puts his Beast Bringer on the back Baby Blacephalon, and Escape Boards to the front. And he goes for a Stellar Wish. He looks for a Fire Crystal, which is actually a pretty good card to be having right now. So he's getting all of the utility cards that he needs. Retreats back into Rare Baby Blacephalon, attaches 1 basic energy, and goes for Firepool Circus. And I hope you weren't too attached to Tapu Lele because it was going. He got rid of 3 energies and Tapu Lele was down. Now I had an Articuno out with absolutely no energies, and he took 3 prize cards because of his Beast Bringer. So I was looking quite glum, and I used my Tag Call to look for Guzma Hala ADP, although I kind of knew it was too late at this point. I decided to attach my Double Dragon energy to it. But I knew it was too late, so I just conceded.